Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My fiancé ran off with a flashy doctor and left me a note on my birthday. Yeah, a handwritten note. On my birthday. So I quietly unleashed the kind of revenge money couldn't stop. My name's Vincent. I'm 36, a civil engineer at a mid-sized firm, and until recently, I was engaged to Aubrey. She's 31. We'd been together for 4 years. Lived together for 3 of those in my house. I bought the place not long after my dad passed. He left me just enough for a solid down payment. 3-bedroom, good neighborhood, nothing flashy. The kind of house you work your whole life to afford, not the kind that impresses strangers. The mortgage was manageable, and the backyard was big enough for the dog I always wanted. But I never got that dog. Aubrey said she was allergic. Always made a face if we passed one on the sidewalk. I'll start sneezing just thinking about it, she'd say, waving her hand like the air offended her. So I let that dream go, like a lot of things. I grew up blue-collar. Dad was a plumber, Mom worked as a school secretary. They didn't have much, but they had grit. They put me through engineering school with a lot of sacrifice. Dad used to drive this beat-up '89 Chevy Silverado. He kept it alive through sheer will and wrench work. Taught me how to change the oil when I was 12. Right there in the driveway on a Sunday afternoon. I still drive my 2010 Tacoma. Bought it used. Had 80,000 miles when I signed the papers. Runs like a dream, though Aubrey hated it. This truck is embarrassing, Vincent, she said once, slamming the door harder than she needed to. You're a professional now. What are your clients going to think when you roll up in this? I think they'll notice the job I do before they care about the car I drive, I told her. She rolled her eyes. Image matters, whether you like it or not. You could at least look like you belong in your own office. But I wasn't going to go into debt for a leather interior and a shiny hood ornament. Dad always told me, don't let pride put you in the poorhouse. When he died, heart attack, just dropped one afternoon while fixing the sink, I made myself a promise. I'd do something with what he gave me. Make it count. I got the job, got the house, and eventually met Aubrey at a friend's wedding. She was stunning, sharp, full of energy. At the time, I thought we balanced each other out, her polish and my grit. Thought I was set. Aubrey worked in pharmaceutical sales. Made around $85,000, plus commissions. Between us, we were doing well. Not rich, but comfortable. We had the wedding set for next summer. Already put down $4,000 in deposits. Her parents were footing most of the bill, but we chipped in where we could. Looking back, I guess the signs were always there. Like when I got promoted last year. Big step up for me. More responsibility, better pay. I took Aubrey out to that Italian place she liked. Just the 2 of us. I was grinning the whole night. To new beginnings, I said, raising my glass. She clinked it with barely a smile. So, does it come with a company car? I blinked. No. I mean, it's not that kind of promotion. It's more project leadership, not executive perks. She set her wine down. What about an expense account? Not really. Maybe some travel reimbursement, but nothing major. She said, oh, then picked up her menu and didn't say much else the rest of dinner. By the time I came home from the store, arms full of bags, trying not to drop the eggs. Hey babe, I called out, kicking the door shut. They had a sale on cereal, grabbed a few boxes. She walked into the kitchen, glanced at the boxes, and her face twisted. Vincent, she snapped, why would you buy this crap? I looked at the box. It's the same stuff you eat. Just store brand. It's not the same. I asked for the organic oat blend. This is full of sugar and God knows what. I thought we were trying to save a little this month, I said, placing the rest of the bags on the counter. What's the big deal? She shook her head. The big deal is that I'm the one who ends up eating it, and I asked you for one thing. One. I stood there, hands still wrapped around a gallon of milk, thinking about how we used to laugh over burnt toast. But there was no laughter in that kitchen anymore. Just cereal boxes and silence. It turned into an hour-long argument. Over cereal. Not even the expensive kind, just cereal. She kept going on and on about how I never listened, how I didn't care about her health, how everything I did was just one more example of how I didn't value what she needed. Vincent, she snapped, standing by the counter with her arms crossed. I asked for one thing. One. And you go cheap on it. Why? Because you just don't care enough to pay attention. It's cereal, I said tired. It's not like I brought home junk food. It's oats and grains, Aubrey. Just doesn't have the word organic stamped on it. She scoffed. That's exactly the problem. You never get it. And then it spiraled. One sentence led to another. And suddenly I was being accused of not caring about her health, her time, her needs. All over a damn box of cereal. But that wasn't the beginning. Things had been shifting for a while. 6 months, maybe more. Her client dinners? They started happening more and more. What used to be once every couple weeks became every few nights. At first, I didn't think much of it. Her job's demanding, I get that. But then she started coming home late, really late, and always with the same excuse. Hugged one of the clients goodbye, she'd say, kicking off her heels at the door. They all wear too much cologne. That became the standard line. Even when the scent clung to her clothes for hours, even when it wasn't one she ever wore. Then the receipts started showing up, fancy steakhouses, rooftop lounges, places I knew we couldn't afford to hit regularly. I'd find them tucked in her coat pockets or left in her purse. So one night, I asked, "Hey, this one here," I said, holding up a receipt for a place I'd only seen in food blogs. 2 people. Filet mignon. $280 tab. When was this? She barely looked up from her phone. That? Oh, a client dinner. Why? Because it seems a little extravagant for a Tuesday. She looked at me hard. So now you're policing my spending? I'm not policing anything. Jesus, Vincent. I make my own money, okay? I don't ask you where you spend yours. That shut me up. But the pit in my stomach didn't go away. And then there was Justin. He's been my buddy since college. Worked together on a brutal concrete project one summer and stayed tight ever since. He's in IT at the hospital where Aubrey has a lot of clients. For years, we played basketball together every Saturday. Same court, same time. He was the guy who always brought Gatorade and talked trash in the paint. And then he started acting off. He started canceling on me. Busy this week, man, he'd text. Or rain check. No big deal the first few times. But it became a pattern. Then when we did see each other, he barely looked me in the eye. Talked fast. Changed the subject when Aubrey came up. I should have noticed. I should have known. Then came my birthday last month. I took the day off. Didn't want to do anything big. Just relax at home with Max, my cat. I adopted him 3 years ago from the shelter. One-eyed orange tabby. Looked like a pirate, attitude to match. Aubrey never really liked him. Claimed his dander bothered her. But he followed me around the house like a loyal little shadow. That morning, I was making coffee when Aubrey came in, already dressed for work. She smiled, a little too wide, and held out a box with shiny wrapping paper. "Don't open it until tonight," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek quickly. "I've got a dinner meeting with the regional director, but I'll be home by 10. We'll celebrate then, okay?" "Another meeting?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She gave me a quick shrug. "You know how it is. These things just pop up, right?" I said, setting the box down on the counter. "Sure. See you tonight." She left without another word. Max jumped up on the stool beside me and stared like he knew something I didn't. The day passed quietly. I worked in the yard a little, cleaned out the garage, watched Max chase a bug across the floor. Around 8 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, Max curled up on my lap, purring away like an old motor, when I figured I'd go ahead and open the gift. The wrapping came off clean. Inside was a black hoodie, soft cotton, with the logo of the band Aubrey and I had seen on our first trip together. Thoughtful, I guess. There was a little card taped to the sleeve. Check the pocket. I reached in, thinking maybe there were concert tickets or something. Instead, I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a receipt this time. It was a note. Handwritten. Just a few lines. "Vincent, I can't do this anymore. The wedding, the house, the whole future we planned. It's not what I want. I found someone who makes me feel alive again. By the time you read this, I'll have already moved my essential things out. I'll get the rest later. I'm sorry it had to end this way." That was it. For years. Over. Just like that. In a note hidden in the pocket of a birthday gift. I sat there holding that piece of paper, my hand frozen, Max still purring like nothing had happened. I must have stayed that way for hours, or maybe just a few minutes. Time didn't make sense anymore. My thoughts spiraled, jumping from memory to memory. The late nights. The cologne. The way she'd flinch when I asked about her day. How she always had her phone angled just out of sight. The fights she'd pick over nothing, like cereal, or me forgetting to rinse a mug. Probably to justify what she was doing. Just 2 weeks ago, she'd made another one of her snide comments. We were standing outside after some pharmaceutical dinner event she'd dragged me to. Her arm looped through mine, fake laughing like we were still the picture of a happy couple. One of her colleagues pulled up in a brand new BMW. Paint still shiny, temp tag still on. Aubrey leaned into me and whispered with a grin. "Maybe someday we'll upgrade to something from this decade." Then she giggled, like it was just a harmless joke. But her colleague smirked at me, and I felt it. That old, ugly heat in my chest. Like I was 16 again, showing up in hand-me-downs while the rich kids judged me for wearing the wrong shoes. I didn't say anything then, just nodded like it didn't sting. But it did. That night, after reading the goodbye note, I called her. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I went into the bedroom. Her side of the closet door was open. Half her clothes gone. The top drawer of the dresser where she kept her jewelry? Empty. She didn't even bother zipping the suitcases all the way. Just vanished. I sat on the edge of the bed, Max rubbing against my leg like he could feel something was wrong. At least someone in this damn house was still loyal. I got up, cracked open a soda, and sat on the couch, just staring at the walls. Numb. Angry. Mostly numb. Then I remembered something. The cloud. We'd set up a shared photo backup account a year ago, so we could store vacation pictures, stuff for the wedding planning, that kind of thing. She wasn't exactly tech-savvy, never really paid attention to what was syncing. I grabbed my laptop, hands shaking, and logged in. Jackpot. There they were. Dozens of photos. All auto-uploaded from her phone. Pictures of her with some guy, tall, gym-built, expensive haircut, the kind of suit you don't get off a clearance rack. They were everywhere. Restaurants. A cabin. A boat. A freaking boat. Judging by the timestamps, this had been going on for months. At least 4. Maybe longer. I clicked through in silence, a rock sinking in my gut. And then I saw it. Buried in a folder labeled Weekend Getaway. There she was. Aubrey, smiling ear to ear, standing next to him. In front of my car. My damn car. The one I let her drive after her lease ended. Because she said she needed something reliable for work. Their weekend bags were in the back seat. My license plate in full view. Clear as day, using my truck for their little affair. I sat back, fists clenched, heart hammering in my chest. I wasn't done. I dug deeper. I knew the backup included text messages if the setting was turned on. She never turned it off. And there they were. Texts between her and the guy, Davis. A doctor at the hospital. Of course. Textbook cliché. Reading them felt like throwing salt in an open wound. Her telling him she was so bored with Vincent, that I was too safe, too basic. I just want to start my real life with you. Once I figure out how to leave without drama. That's when my phone buzzed. A text. From Justin. Dude, I need to talk to you. It's important. My fingers were still shaking as I called him immediately. He picked up on the second ring. What's up? I asked. There was a long pause on the other end. Vincent, he finally said, his voice low, hesitant. I've been seeing Aubrey with someone at the hospital. A lot. I closed my eyes. Davis, I said flatly. There was a beat of silence. Yeah, Justin breathed. How'd you? When did you first see them? He exhaled hard. About 3 months ago. In the cafeteria. They were close. I thought maybe it was just a work thing at first. But then, last month, I saw them in the parking garage. Kissing. He paused again. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. Why didn't you say something sooner? I asked. I tried to keep the anger out of my voice, but it was there. Quiet. Heavy. Burning in the back of my throat. On the other end of the line, Justin exhaled. She saw me watching them that day, he said, voice tight. Later, she came to my office and said that if I told you, she'd tell HR I was harassing her. I went quiet. She said she'd ruin me, Vincent. I could lose my job, man. I've got the twins, and Jen's working part-time. I was going to tell you anyway, I swear. I was working up to it, but I'm sorry. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Max was curled up on the armrest beside me, watching me silently. It's not your fault, I said finally. She's gone now anyway. Left me a note. On my birthday. There was silence on the line. Then Justin muttered, Jesus Christ. Yeah. What are you going to do? I sighed. I don't know yet. But I'll think of something. And I did. The next morning, I picked up the phone and called my dad's old friend. He's my insurance agent now. I told him I needed to cancel the wedding insurance policy. When he asked why, I gave him the short version. There was a pause on the other end. Then a low sigh. Son, he said, I'm going to have to call your dad's brother. He'll want to know. 2 hours later, there was a knock on my door. Uncle Peter stood there holding a 6-pack of my dad's favorite beer. He didn't say much at first, just handed me a can and stepped inside. Had to do this for your cousin Tyler last year, he said as we sat on the porch. Better a busted engagement than a busted marriage. I nodded. We sat in silence, just the quiet fizz of beer cans opening and the occasional chirp of birds from the trees. Your dad, Peter said finally. He would have handled this the same way you are. Just quiet dignity and a clear head. Coming from Peter, that was the highest compliment possible. I didn't say anything, just nodded again and took another sip. But I wasn't going to sit around licking my wounds. I took a week off work. Told them I needed time to sort some personal stuff out. They didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer any. First thing I did was change all the locks. Front door, back door, garage, even the gate. Then I sat down at the dining table with a stack of bank statements and login credentials. Aubrey and I had a joint account, about $12,000 in it. Most of it was mine. I'd just received a bonus from work a few weeks earlier, and stupidly, I hadn't moved it yet. I transferred every last cent into my personal account. After that, I started making calls. I rang up the wedding venue first. Explained the situation, no drama, just the facts. I was wondering if I could transfer the reservation and deposit to my name only, I said. The venue manager, Dakota, surprised me. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Of course. We've had this happen before. I'll take care of the paperwork." Next, I called the photographer. Same conversation, same request. Both vendors were more understanding than I expected. Then I got to work. I opened a new folder on my desktop and titled it for reference. I filled it with screenshots, every picture, every text message I'd found, neatly organized by date, with file names that told the whole story without needing to open a thing. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet, but it felt important to have it. Ammunition, if nothing else. Every night that week, I stayed up past 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. Max stayed close, curled beside my keyboard, or sleeping on my feet as I worked. I combed through hospital staff directories, cross-referencing faces from Aubrey's photos until I found him. Davis, chief neurosurgeon, Harvard Med, perfect smile, picture-perfect profile. I started a spreadsheet. On one side, I listed Aubrey's late meetings. The ones she claimed were work-related, always vague, always running long. On the other side, I tracked Davis's surgery schedule, publicly available records, if you knew where to look. And guess what? They lined up more often than not. Then I pulled up his LinkedIn, took notes, noticed some odd gaps in his employment history, gaps that raised questions, the kind of questions no one puts in a resume. Finally, I pulled out the shared iPad, something she'd forgotten to wipe, and opened Instagram. I accessed her account, started scrolling, and documented every interaction between her and Davis going back 6 months. On day 4, Aubrey finally called. "Vincent, we need to talk about the rest of my things." "No hello. No how are you. No sorry for leaving you a freaking note on your birthday." I kept my tone neutral. "Your things are fine. I'll come by tomorrow around 6 o'clock to pick everything up." I changed the locks. "You what? You can't do that. Half that house is basically mine." I laughed. "Couldn't help it." "Really? Your name isn't on the deed. It isn't on the mortgage. You've never paid a property tax bill or a homeowner's insurance premium. So, please, tell me, which half is yours?" "We're engaged." "That makes it. We were engaged. Past tense. Just like how you were faithful. You were honest. You were going to marry me. All past tense." Silence. For a moment, I thought she'd hung up, but then, "This is so typical of you. Being technical instead of reasonable. You left me a breakup note in my birthday present and moved in with another man. Don't talk to me about reasonable." "Fine. Be that way. My dad will call you about this." Click. Her dad did call the next day. Trevor Whitfield, Esquire. Voice like a judge, probably practiced in a mirror. He got right to it. "Mr. Castillo, my daughter will be coming by with a police escort to collect her belongings. You should also expect to hear from our lawyers regarding the house situation." I let him talk. Then, calmly, "Mr. Whitfield, before you go making threats, you might want to ask your daughter about the contents of the cloud account she shared with me. Specifically the folders from the Lakeside Inn in March, and the weekend at your family cabin in April." Silence. "I'm happy to share those files with Mrs. Whitfield, if necessary." A long pause. Then, "I'll call you back." He never did. But about an hour later, Aubrey texted, "You're an a-hole. What time can I get my stuff?" We arranged for Saturday. When she pulled up, she brought Chloe, not Davis. Smart move on his part. I'd already packed everything, black trash bags and cardboard boxes stacked on the porch. I sat on the front step with Max in my lap, not even looking in their direction. Chloe moved quietly, helping her sister carry the boxes to the back of the Range Rover. Another gift from Daddy. When Aubrey disappeared inside again, Chloe lingered. "Sorry about all this," she mumbled. "Not your fault," I said without looking up. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "For what it's worth, I think she's making a huge mistake. Davis has got a reputation. This isn't the first relationship he's wrecked." That line stuck with me. Chloe had said it so casually, like it was just another fact about Davis, like saying he liked his coffee black or preferred jazz over pop. "Oh yeah," she added. "Last year, he did the same thing with the nurse. Left his fiancée for her, then dumped the nurse 3 months later when he got bored." She glanced toward the house, then lowered her voice. "But don't tell Aubrey I said anything. She thinks this is some epic love story." I gave a short nod. "Your secret's safe with me." After they left that night, Chloe called. Her voice was low, urgent. "Vincent, there's something you should know." "What's going on?" "Aubrey took some things that weren't hers." I sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" "I saw her pack that signed baseball your dad left you," she said. "And the nice watch from your grandfather." "You're sure?" "Positive," she said firmly. "She said since you kept the ring, she deserves something valuable, too." I hadn't even thought about the engagement ring. 2 carats. Nearly 15 grand. Almost my entire savings at the time. I remembered how long I debated the purchase, how I'd stared at that little velvet box, wondering if it was enough to prove how serious I was about our future. After we hung up, I sat in my dad's old recliner, the one Aubrey always hated, always wanted to throw out, and just stared at the wall. That chair still had the faint smell of his aftershave. She hated it because it was ugly. I hated that she touched anything that belonged to him. Taking those heirlooms? That was the final straw. This wasn't just a breakup anymore. It wasn't even betrayal. It was theft. And I needed answers. I needed to know more about Davis. Justin was my way in, but I had to tread carefully. Aubrey had already threatened his job once. I didn't want to give her any more ammunition. We met at a diner well away from the hospital, one of those old chrome-front places with cracked red booths and a jukebox no one touched anymore. Justin slid a coffee across the table toward me. His full name is Davis Chamberlain, he said. Neurosurgeon. Early 40s. Makes about $800,000 a year. I raised my eyebrows. Damn. Divorced twice, he added. Twice. I echoed. Aubrey knows this. Justin gave a half shrug. Doubt she cares. You should see the car he drives. Maserati. Custom suits. The whole, I'm rich and important package. I sipped my coffee, letting the bitterness settle. The hospital must love him. That's the thing, Justin said, leaning in. They don't. He's good at what he does, yeah, but he's on thin ice with admin. There've been complaints, bedside manner, how he treats nurses. He paused. Plus some rumors about prescription stuff. What kind of rumors? He lowered his voice. Let's just say some medications go missing during his shifts. Nothing proven, but it's been noticed. I nodded slowly. Anything else I should know? That's when he told me about Stephanie, a nurse who used to date Davis. Works in the ER now, Justin said. Transferred after they broke up. From what I heard, she might have some stories. Finding Stephanie didn't take long. A quick scan through the hospital directory, a little cross-referencing with social media, and I had her profile. Mid-30s, blonde, tired eyes in every photo. She looked like someone who'd seen too much and didn't want to talk about any of it. Getting her to talk was the hard part. I stationed myself at the coffee shop across from the hospital and waited. 3 shift changes passed before I finally spotted her, her face just familiar enough from the profile picture. I walked up slowly, careful not to startle her. Hi, I said. Are you Stephanie? I was wondering if we could talk. Davis Chamberlain. Her expression shifted instantly, face hard, jaw clenched. I have nothing to say about that jerk. I didn't flinch. He's with my fiancée now. I paused, then corrected myself. Or ex-fiancée. That got her attention. Her eyes narrowed, curious now. Seriously? I gave a slow nod. Let me guess, she said, leaning back. She works at the hospital? Sales rep. Another nod. Figured. That's his type. Women who look up to him professionally. Makes them easier to control. She grabbed her coffee like she needed something to anchor her temper. Look, I shouldn't be talking about this in public, she said, glancing around. I just want to understand what I'm dealing with, I said. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. She exhaled through her nose, reluctant, but clearly just as eager to speak. Fine. 5 minutes. We took a seat at a corner table, one mostly hidden from the main crowd. She sipped once, then started talking. He pursued me relentlessly, she said. While he was still engaged, by the way, kept promising to leave her, and then finally did. I didn't interrupt. I just listened. 3 months later, everything shifted. He became distant, controlling. Accused me of cheating if I so much as worked late. Like everything I did was somehow suspicious. She shook her head, and when I confronted him about the pills I found in his locker, he didn't even try to explain. Just threatened me. Told me if I said a word, he'd ruin my nursing career. She looked directly at me then. The man's a narcissist, and possibly an addict. But the worst part? He's protected. His father's on the hospital board. Aubrey, your ex. She's just the latest in a long pattern. Exactly, I muttered. She leaned in. He'll love bomb her. Make her feel like she's the center of the universe. Then, when he gets bored, or when she finds something she shouldn't, he'll discard her like the rest. She softened slightly, but only for a moment. If I were you, I'd be thanking my lucky stars. You dodged a bullet. Your ex did you a favor. Then, with a glance at the time, she stood. If you really want to hit Davis where it hurts, she said, gathering her things, go after his reputation. That's everything to him. And do yourself a favor, don't try to warn her. People like that, they don't listen. They learn the hard way. With that, Stephanie walked out. A few moments later, my phone buzzed. A text. Trevor, meet me tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Riverfront Cafe. Come alone. Aubrey's father. This should be interesting. I got there 15 minutes early. Chose a seat at the back corner, my back to the wall, full view of the entrance. Habit. Trevor Whitfield walked in like a man used to being in charge. 7-figure corporate lawyer, from what I'd heard. The suit, the silver hair, the posture, it all checked out. But something flickered in his eyes when he saw me already seated and watching him. His stride faltered just slightly. Good. He didn't bother with pleasantries. I want to discuss your evidence, he said, pulling out the chair opposite me, and how we can resolve this situation amicably. I didn't move. You mean the photos? The text messages. I let the silence stretch just a little. The photos of your daughter cheating on me for months. The texts where she planned how to leave me without drama. Or maybe the pictures of them at your family cabin. He flinched slightly at the mention of the cabin. I had no idea they were using the property, he said. Well, they were, I replied. Very thoroughly, from the looks of the photos. He cleared his throat, glanced around to make sure no one was within earshot. What exactly do you want? My father's signed baseball. My grandfather's watch, both of which she stole when she moved out. He looked slightly uncomfortable, but nodded. And the $4,000 in wedding deposits that came from my account. Another pause. I'll get your items back, he said finally. You'll have them by the end of the week. He turned to leave, but then hesitated, looking back at me. For what it's worth, I don't approve of how she handled this. Her mother and I raised her better. As he walked away, I called after him. One more thing. Tell Aubrey that if anything else of mine mysteriously disappears, those photos go to your wife. Your partners. Anyone else who might be interested. 3 days later, a courier delivered a package to my office. My father's baseball, my grandfather's watch, and a cashier's check for $4,000. No note. I didn't expect one. That evening, I got a text from Chloe. Can we meet? It's important. We met at a quiet bar downtown. She looked stressed, fidgeting with her drink. What's up? I asked. Aubrey doesn't know I'm here, she said. But I thought you should know what's happening. I just looked at her. She's miserable, she said. Not my problem anymore. I know, but Davis is showing his true colors already. Controlling, jealous. He checks her phone, questions her about every male client. I just raised an eyebrow. She kept going. Last week, he surprised her by showing up at what was supposed to be a business dinner. Still not seeing how this concerns me. Chloe leaned in slightly. She's talking about quitting her job because he doesn't like her working with male doctors. She's giving up her career for this guy. She made a mistake, I said. A huge, stupid mistake that she's too proud to admit. Chloe looked down at her drink. You know the real reason she left that note in your birthday gift? I didn't answer. She was too cowardly to face you. She knew if she had to tell you in person, she might not go through with it. Why are you telling me all this? She looked at me earnestly. Because despite everything, I know you cared about her. Really cared. Not like Davis, who just sees her as a trophy. She hesitated, then added quietly. And because I've always thought you deserved better than how she treated you. I nodded slowly. I appreciate your concern, I said carefully. But I'm moving on with my life. I looked her in the eye. I'm good, actually. Of course, she said quickly, looking away. I just thought you should know. I nodded slowly, swirling the last of my drink in the glass. I couldn't tell if she was trying to warn me, manipulate me, or maybe just get something off her chest. But as we finished our drinks, I found myself wondering why Chloe had really reached out. Was it just concern for her sister, or was there something more under the surface? Either way, the wheels in my head were turning. I now had allies I never expected. Justin at the hospital, Stephanie with her inside knowledge, and now possibly Chloe, right on the inside of Aubrey's new, curated life. Then there was Trevor, who might still be willing to share more if he thought it would keep his wife from ever seeing those cabin photos. Over the next few weeks, I quietly put my plan into motion. It required patience, which was fine by me. I had plenty of time now that I wasn't planning a wedding. The first step was reaching out to Colton, an old college friend who now worked for the state medical board. We grabbed dinner at a little Thai place we used to hit up back in undergrad. I waited until we were on our second beer before I casually steered the conversation. So hey, I said, setting down my glass. What would someone do if they had concerns about, let's say, a doctor who might be mishandling prescriptions? Colton gave me a curious look. You mean like overprescribing? Maybe. Or writing scripts for someone who doesn't need them. Hypothetically. He leaned back. Well, the board takes that stuff seriously. Especially with controlled substances. Even anonymous tips can trigger a preliminary review. But, he added, pointing his fork at me, whoever's making the complaint better be damn sure it's legit. False reports? That can blow up in your face. Big time. I nodded. Totally. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical. Just trying to understand the process. He gave me a rundown. Where to file, how to submit anonymously, what they look for in a complaint. I made mental notes, careful not to tip my hand too much. Later that week, I met up with Stephanie again. This time, I took her to a quiet Italian place near her office. She seemed hesitant at first, stirring her pasta more than eating it. But eventually, she opened up. I found a bottle of oxycodone in his gym bag, she said, her voice low. No prescription label. Nothing. I kept my expression neutral. What did he say when you asked? Something about an old football injury. Said the pain flares up sometimes. But it wasn't just a few pills, Vincent. It was full, at least 60 tabs. And he didn't have any limp. Nothing. I raised my eyebrows. That's a lot. She nodded. It gets worse. Some days at work he's laser focused, like scarily alert. Other days, he disappears for 30, 40 minutes, then comes back completely different. Slower. Eyes all pinpricked. It's classic. I leaned in slightly. Would you ever make a statement? I mean officially? She shook her head fast. Absolutely not. I've worked too hard to build my career. I can't get caught up in this. But, she paused, staring at her glass. If someone were to tip off the board or the DEA or whoever, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. That was as much of a green light as I was going to get. Meanwhile, I started hanging out with Chloe more. She'd send me little updates over text, snippets of Aubrey's train wreck romance with Davis, her over-the-top Instagram posts, cryptic arguments overheard on speakerphone. Sometimes we'd grab coffee and talk, like two friends catching up. During one of those meetups, we were sitting outside a cafe downtown when Chloe sighed and said, "You heard about the housewarming party?" I shook my head. No. What party? Davis is throwing this massive thing at his new place. Aubrey finally moved into his mansion, $1.2 million in the hills. She's been showing it off like it's some kind of palace. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Sounds like she wants to prove something. She does, Chloe said, rolling her eyes. She wants everyone to see their perfect life. Dad's going, of course. Can't say no to a bunch of hospital bigwigs under one roof. But Mom. Chloe smirked. Mom wasn't having any of it. The final piece came together when Justin texted me. He's scheduled for a big one Monday. High-profile case, senator's daughter. News outlets will be there. Pressure's on. Perfect. The night before the party, I sat down with everything Justin had helped me compile. Dates, discrepancies, inventory mismatches. I crafted an anonymous complaint to the medical board, laying out just enough specifics to get attention without revealing the source. I focused on incidents where Davis may have been impaired during patient care. Justin had flagged the dates when narcotics inventory didn't match usage logs. That was the hook. I gave them what they needed to start pulling the thread. Then, I reached out to an old friend who worked hospital security. You owe me for this one, I told him, sliding $200 across the table. Just keep your eyes open. Let me know if anything weird happens next week during Davis's shifts. He raised an eyebrow. Something you're expecting? Let's just say, the spotlight's about to get warm. I didn't go to the party. Of course not. But Chloe kept me looped in with pictures all night. Aubrey, airbrushed to perfection in a dress that probably cost more than my car. Davis, beaming like a prince, surrounded by colleagues who still thought he was untouchable. Her father laughing with hospital execs, making connections. It was all so polished. Immaculate. Expensive. Exactly what I needed to see. The higher they climbed, the harder the fall. Monday came. Davis performed the surgery right on schedule. Everything went off without a hitch, at least on the surface. What didn't make the evening news was what I'd heard from my guy in security. They hit his team with a random narcotic test that morning. New hospital policy or something, he texted. Davis didn't see it coming. Tuesday morning, another ping. Emergency meeting. Dr. C looked pissed when he left. Wednesday, Justin sent me a one-liner. He hasn't shown up today. Everyone's whispering. By Friday, the rumor he was spinning like mad. Suspension. Investigation. People avoiding eye contact. I didn't need to say a word. I waited. Patience was key now. No sudden moves. Then Tuesday afternoon, Chloe called me. Her voice was sharp, panicked. Vincent, everything's falling apart. Is that so? I kept my tone even. Davis's license has been suspended. They're saying it's related to narcotics. He failed something. Aubrey's losing her mind. How's she holding up? I asked, pretending not to care. She's in total denial. Keeps saying it's a setup. That someone's trying to sabotage him. Huh, I murmured. Sounds familiar. There was a pause. She also found out about his ex-fiancés. Plural. There were 3, not 2. Well, I said, sounds like she's having quite the awakening. It gets worse. The hospital board is meeting tomorrow to decide if they're terminating him. His malpractice insurance is threatening to drop him because of the investigation. If that happens, he loses everything. Yeah, and Aubrey's name is only on the lease. Not the accounts. She used all her savings to furnish the place. Everything's in his name. I almost felt bad. Almost. 2 days later, I got the message I'd been waiting for. Davis was terminated. The medical board investigation was proceeding. And according to Chloe, he was spiraling, blaming Aubrey for his bad luck, drinking heavily, becoming verbally abusive. She finally saw him for what he was. Chloe told me all of it over yet another coffee meeting. But she's trapped, Chloe said, staring into her cup. She's afraid to leave because he's becoming unstable, and she has nowhere to go anyway. I nodded sympathetically, though inside, all I could think was, karma's a bitch. That night, around 2 a.m., my doorbell rang, repeatedly. Through my newly installed security camera, I could see Davis swaying on my porch, clearly drunk. He looked like hell. I didn't answer. He rang again, then started pounding on the door, shouting incoherently. I calmly called the police, recorded the entire incident, and filed a report the next morning. 3 days later, I found my mailbox dented and hanging off its post. The day after that, I noticed one of my truck's tires was losing air, slowly, like someone had let it out just enough to be annoying but not obvious. I didn't react. Instead, I quietly upgraded my security system. More cameras, better angles, motion alerts, covering every approach to the house. And I documented everything, meticulously. The next evening, around 9 p.m., my doorbell rang again. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the security camera. It was Aubrey. She stood on the porch, makeup streaked down her cheeks, her eyes puffy and red. I hesitated, debating whether to even respond. But curiosity got the better of me. I tapped the intercom. "What do you want?" "Vincent, please," she said quickly. "I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I opened the door but didn't move aside. I stayed planted in the doorway, blocking her from stepping inside. Aubrey looked terrible. Hair unbrushed, mascara smeared, voice raw. "You were right," she blurted. "About everything. Davis is not who I thought he was. He's been lying about everything. His finances, his past, even his medical issues. And this concerns me how exactly?" I said flatly. "I made a horrible mistake. The worst mistake of my life," she said, her voice cracking. "I had everything with you. Stability, honesty, real love, and I threw it away for what? Some fantasy that fell apart in months." "Again," I said, folding my arms, not seeing how this is my problem. "I need help, Vincent. Please." She took a shaky breath. "Davis is losing everything. His license might be permanently revoked. The condo's going into foreclosure. Apparently, he's been leveraged to the hilt. He's drinking constantly. He's scary." She swallowed hard. "Last night, he shoved me into a wall." I stared at her. "Sounds like you should call the police. Not your ex." I started to close the door. "Wait." She reached out and put her hand on the door. "I have nowhere else to go. My parents are out of town. Chloe's place is too small. I just need somewhere to stay for a few days until I figure things out." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You're joking, right? You want to stay here after what you did?" She looked up at me, eyes damp but defiant. "I know I don't deserve your help, but you're the only person who's ever truly cared about me." I stopped her right there, held up my hand. "Just stop. The woman I cared about wouldn't have left a coward's note in a birthday gift. Wouldn't have taken family heirlooms out of spite. Wouldn't have moved in with another man without a second thought." She opened her mouth, faltered. I was confused. "Davis manipulated me." I shook my head. "No. You made choices. Adult choices. Now you get to live with the consequences." Her face hardened, the way it always did when she didn't get her way. That familiar entitled anger surfaced. "So that's it. You're just going to leave me with nowhere to go? After 4 years together. Funny how that works, isn't it?" I let that sit for a beat, then added, "By the way, how's Davis's career going? Heard he had some trouble recently." She stared at me, and I watched the realization dawn in her eyes. Her voice dropped. "It was you. You reported him." I shrugged. "Someone had to stop an impaired doctor from operating on people. Think of it as my public service. You ruined his life, his career, everything we had." "No," I cut her off. "His addiction and dishonesty did that. I just made sure the right people were watching at the right time." I leaned a little closer, met her eyes. "And for what it's worth, I had help. Turns out there are plenty of people who've been hurt by you too. Chloe," she whispered. "She's been feeding you information. And that nurse, Stephanie. People don't like being used and discarded, Aubrey. Something to keep in mind for your next relationship." The next day, Davis showed up again, this time pounding on my door, clearly drunk. It wasn't even noon. I didn't bother opening up. Just called the police and watched through the security camera as they escorted him away. He was yelling, slurring, threatening to come back. They warned him he'd be arrested for trespassing and public intoxication. I saved the footage, added it to the growing file I was keeping. Later that evening, Aubrey tried a different tactic. She sent her father. Trevor Whitfield looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, standing on my porch in a blazer that probably cost more than my rent. "Vincent," he started, clearing his throat. "I understand there's been some unfortunate developments with Davis's situation." "Very unfortunate," I replied. "Addiction is a serious disease." "Yes, well." He hesitated, glancing behind him like someone might save him from this conversation. "Aubrey finds herself in a difficult position. She certainly does. He shifted again. I could tell he hated being here. Hated needing anything from me. That made two of us. I'm aware that you and she have a complicated history, he went on. But she's in a vulnerable place right now. And as her father, I'm concerned about her safety and well-being. As you should be. There was a pause. He swallowed, clearly uncomfortable. I'm wondering if we could come to some arrangement, he said finally. A temporary truce, if you will. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of arrangement? I asked, my tone flat. Trevor adjusted his collar, his voice practiced but tight. Aubrey needs somewhere stable to stay until Davis's situation resolves, where she can find her own place. Your house has the space. And you two were close once. I stared at him, unable to mask the disbelief. You want me to take in your daughter after she left me for another man? The same daughter who stole family heirlooms and claimed half my house despite contributing nothing to it. He had the grace to look embarrassed, but only just. I understand it's an unusual request. Unusual? I scoffed. It's delusional. He took a slow breath. I'm prepared to make it worth your while. Say, $20,000 to let her use your spare room for a month or two. No strings attached. I stared at him. You're trying to buy me off to clean up Aubrey's mess. I'm trying to protect my daughter. Where was this concern when she was destroying my life? I said, my voice low and even. When she was moving in with a man you knew was still married when they met. Trevor paled slightly. How did you know that? Davis was still legally married to his second wife when he and Aubrey started dating. I did my homework, Mr. Whitfield, just like I looked into his prescription habits and professional misconduct. He was quiet for a long moment, no defense forming on his lips. I let the silence stretch, then added, What do you want, Vincent? I mimicked his earlier question. Nothing. Nothing from you or Aubrey. I want to be left alone to rebuild the life your daughter shattered. He turned to leave, his shoulders slightly hunched. I added, For what it's worth, Chloe tried to warn her. Multiple times. Maybe start listening to your younger daughter. She seems to be the only one in your family with a moral compass. The door clicked shut behind him. The next few weeks brought more desperate attempts at contact. Aubrey left tearful voicemails, full of regret, begging for another chance, promising she'd changed. I didn't respond. Davis, when he was sober enough to spell, sent threatening texts. I documented every single one and forwarded them to his lawyer. No response came, but I knew it was being added to the pile of trouble already drowning him. Trevor tried again. This time it was $50,000. A briefcase. Neat bundles. A check. I didn't even look at the details. I declined. Eventually, they got the message. Aubrey moved back to her parents' house, tail between her legs. Davis, facing criminal charges for prescription fraud on top of his license suspension, reportedly left town. Disgraced. Broke. Probably drunk. The perfect couple, so smug in their betrayal, crashed and burned in spectacular fashion. Left nothing but wreckage behind. Aubrey's Instagram, once flooded with pictures of beach vacations, wine tastings, and gaudy couple selfies captioned #blessed, shifted to vague inspirational quotes about forgiveness and starting over. Her friends from the hospital, the ones who used to egg her on in comment sections, slowly stopped interacting with her posts. The comment threads, once overflowing with fire emojis and couple goals declarations, went eerily quiet. According to Chloe, Aubrey had been crashing with different friends each week, wearing out her welcome each time with her neediness and drama before finally admitting defeat and moving back home. Chloe didn't gloat when she told me. It wasn't her style, but I could hear the disappointment in her voice. She called me last week, Chloe had said, stirring her coffee absently. Cried for half an hour. Said no one wanted her around anymore. Honestly, Vincent, I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. She burned a lot of bridges. That doesn't go away overnight. She still doesn't get it, Chloe continued. Thinks she's the victim. Former colleagues stopped returning Aubrey's calls. The pharmaceutical company where she worked placed her on administrative leave after Davis's narcotic issues became public knowledge. They couldn't afford to have a sales rep linked, however indirectly, to prescription fraud. Not in their industry. Chloe told me over lunch one Saturday. They didn't even wait for her side of the story, she said. Just told her to clean out her desk. For a woman like Aubrey, I said quietly, that's a death sentence. Chloe looked up, brow furrowed. You mean socially? I gave a half shrug. Her whole identity was built on being someone. The image, the lifestyle, the Instagram perfect life. Strip that away. And there's nothing left, Chloe finished. For a woman whose entire identity had been tied to status and appearance, it was the ultimate fall. As for me, I kept the house. Got that dog I always wanted, a rescue lab mix I named Cooper. Big, goofy, loyal. The kind of dog that doesn't care if you've had a good day or a bad one, just that you're there. Started playing basketball with Justin again. We'd meet up at the old court downtown, like we used to. It was grounding, no drama, just sweat, jokes, and the occasional trash talk. Man, you still shoot like you're carrying a backpack full of bricks, Justin said one night after I airballed a 3. Still better than you dribbling like a toddler. I shot back. We laughed until our sides hurt. I fixed up my Tacoma too, new sound system, new wheels. Something about the hum of a good engine and music blaring through the speakers made things feel right again. Max, the cat, eventually accepted Cooper. It took time, weeks of hissing and silent standoffs. But one morning I woke up to find them both asleep at the foot of the bed. Truce declared. The 3 of us, me, Max, and Cooper, settled into a comfortable bachelor routine. Quiet mornings, long walks, and lazy Sundays. Occasionally, I'd meet Chloe for coffee. Just as friends, for now. She was nothing like her sister, and that's the highest compliment I could give. I sold the engagement ring. Didn't need it sitting in a drawer reminding me of what didn't happen. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't watching someone suffer. It's watching them realize, too late, exactly what they threw away, and knowing you finally moved on to something better. It's been 6 months now. Life has a weird way of working out. Cooper, my lab shepherd mix, is snoring at my feet as I write this. Max is perched on the armrest of my dad's old recliner, keeping his usual watchful eye on everything. Best decision I ever made was keeping both of them. They don't give a damn about my earning potential or what kind of car I drive. Work's going well too. Got promoted to project lead last month. All that overtime I put in after the breakup actually paid off. As for Aubrey and Davis, the aftermath was even more satisfying than I expected. Davis's license suspension became permanent when the investigation uncovered that he'd been writing prescriptions using other doctors' DA numbers. Criminal charges are pending. He'll likely never practice medicine again. Last I heard from Justin, Davis filed for bankruptcy and moved back to his hometown in Ohio. The $1.2 million house was foreclosed on. His Maserati? Repossessed right in the hospital parking lot. According to Justin, it happened during his lunch break. Dude, he said, barely able to contain his laughter on the phone. It was like something out of a movie. He came out with his coffee and saw it getting hauled away. Nurses were filming it. Whole ER staff was talking about it by the end of the shift. Apparently, that moment became legendary hospital gossip. Aubrey tried to salvage her pharmaceutical sales career, but her reputation was tarnished by association. It didn't help that word spread fast in those circles. And selling to doctors gets complicated when you're known for sleeping with one who lost his license over narcotic issues. No matter how talented she was at her job, that kind of baggage doesn't just wash off. Eventually, she landed something, a lower-paying position at a smaller company. A significant step down from where she used to be. The corner office was gone. The catered meetings, the expense account, the Range Rover, all of it. Replaced with a shared cubicle, lukewarm coffee, and a long commute. Last week, I saw her. I was at the light, sitting in my freshly detailed Tacoma. New wheels, suspension raised just enough. She pulled up beside me in her dad's old Honda. The one with the dented door and faded paint. A far cry from the sleek, black Range Rover she used to drive like a trophy. Our eyes met. She looked surprised. Maybe hurt. Maybe just caught off guard. I didn't react at all. No smirk. No nod. Just turned my head and drove on when the light changed. That moment, I think it hit her harder than any insult I could have delivered. Trevor had his own mess to clean up. Apparently, the cabin photos got leaked, somehow. Not by me. I swear that to his wife if she's listening. But they got out. And when they did, everything went sideways. His wife was livid, not just about the affair itself, but the fact that Trevor had been covering for Aubrey. And not just covering, actively lying to her. Davis had been a family friend. That made it worse. According to Chloe, their parents had the fight of the century. Screaming, accusations, slammed doors. The works. Trevor ended up sleeping in his office for a month. Serves him right. Speaking of Chloe, remember those coffee meetings? Yeah, they turned into dinner dates. Slowly, glacially slow. We were both cautious. Both had scars, and neither of us wanted to make another mistake. But there was something real there. Something I never had with Aubrey. It was honest. No games. No manipulation. 3 weeks ago, Aubrey found out. She stopped by her parents' place unannounced. We were there, having dinner, laughing, relaxed. The moment she saw us, her face twisted. She lost it. An absolute meltdown. You're disgusting, she spat at me. You're just using Chloe to get back at me, aren't you? I didn't say a word. You think this makes you better than me? She kept going. You think dating my sister somehow makes up for what happened? Then Chloe stood up. Calm. Unshaken. Not everything is about you, she said. 5 simple words. That's all it took. Aubrey froze like she'd been slapped. And for the first time in a long time, I saw her speechless. I've never been prouder of anyone. And the irony? It's not lost on me. Aubrey threw away something solid for a fantasy that blew up in her face. Meanwhile, I found something real with someone who was right there all along. Her parents, surprisingly, have been supportive. I think, in their own way, they see it as karmic balance. So that's it. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.